Is somebody at your game table rules lawyering? What should you do about it? I'm discussing all those things here in this video for today. All right, so first off, before we get too far, I would guess I need to clarify sort of what roughly rules lawyering is, or at least like, I guess also, is rules lawyering bad or good to a degree? And like, rules lawyering isn't always bad, but some people take rules lawyering too much and too far. Like, they'll just rules lawyer their own things essentially. Like, they'll make sure they're always making sure that the rules work for them and what they're doing, but never work for their opponents and what they're doing, sort of thing. And that's sort of like a dickish move to a degree. They'll always try to make it sound like the rules always work for them and what they're doing and whatnot, whereas they never work for you and what you're doing. So that is very manipulative, and I don't really like that. But people who, essentially what rules lawyering is people who know like how, really magic works and how like the stack works and how like layering works and all these other very intricate other different things and whatnot work in like actuality, like, to a science, to a T, sometimes will, I guess, I don't know, like, hold up the game to a degree by lawyering the rules. Essentially, like, trying to make too much out of, like, misplays or rules interactions and different things like this. So people who will say, well, I might, Steve might have a response to that or whatever, like, or I might have a response to that or whatever. So you can't just do it or whatnot. You've got to wait for me to respond, or you've got to wait for me to say that's fine or whatnot. But other times they won't say anything. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Obviously, at this point, you don't have something. Obviously, at that point, you might have had something, but you're deciding what to do, in a sense. That's fine if people are like, hang on, I might have a response or whatever. But if somebody's like, hang on, no, I haven't actually, not declared that I'm not doing anything right now, right yet, or whatever, or whatnot. That's a little bit of rules lawyering, I guess, but it's not a huge one. It's more of an in-response thing, I guess. But some people will go, oh, but technically you didn't declare this or you didn't declare that or whatever, whatnot. So I didn't really know that you were going to do that. Oh, I knew you were going to do that, but I didn't hear you say it, or you didn't say it or whatever. So I didn't know you were about to do it at this point. So therefore, I didn't know whether I should respond at this point or whatnot. Because that was, obviously the time that I needed to respond and whatnot, things like that, because otherwise you've put your Swiftfoot boots on and it's hexproof or whatever. So, yeah, you didn't announce that correctly or whatnot, and things like this, whatnot. So, I could still respond at this point, even though you've said, oh, by the way, I'm now going to go to combat and attack with this. And then they've gone, oh, wait, I didn't hear you say you're actually equipping this or whatnot, whatever, things like that. So it didn't have haste or whatnot, things like that, obviously. But things like that, like, or you say, oh, well, I'm going to attack Alan. And Alan's like, well, wait a minute, how's your thing attacking me? And you're like, well, I equipped Swiftfoot boots on it and attacked you. And they're like, oh, well, I never heard you say I'm equipping Swiftfoot boots to my creature and then attack and then going to combat or whatever. Or whatever, I'm just equipping my Swiftfoot boots to my thing or whatnot. So that's sort of to a degree rules lawyering, to a degree. Certainly it's not the biggest rules lawyering that you could get, but certainly like that's an example of it. It is sometimes, again, I sort of said this in Distractions where I was like, hey, there's lots of distractions, a lot is going on, not even just in the game where like you've got to be like, okay, well, I'm looking at my cards to be like, well, what am I going to do on my turn? What kind of spells can I, cast on my opponent's turn if I need to do something in response? I have enough mana for this. Will I have enough mana for that? Do I want to do this first? What's the best way for me to play this? Who should I, if I play this and I can attack, who am I going to attack? So you're making all these decisions that are in your hands. So sometimes there's all those distractions and whatnot. But again, when somebody's like, and again, this is part of distractions again, but I will say it here that when somebody is perhaps trying to rules lawyer to a degree is sometimes because they are like, well, now that you're attacking me, actually I'm not, they're suddenly like, well, I actually didn't hear you equip that, say, oh, I'm equipping my Swiftfoot boots or whatever or whatnot, this or that, whatnot, to my creature so that it can actually attack this turn. When you're attacking somebody else, they won't give a rat's flying ass. They'll be like, okay, cool, right, whatever. But as soon as it's attacking them, they'll be like, oh, blah, 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 you didn't actually say that you're equipping, I didn't hear you, or whatnot, this and that. So they'll make an excuse to say, but that didn't happen, or whatnot, or you didn't give me time to respond, or whatnot, whatever, because, you didn't declare it properly, or whatnot. So those sorts of things, people will rules lawyer when it's suddenly them at the, sword point or the dagger point or whatever it is of whatever's happening. It's like suddenly they want to rules lawyer things. But when it's like somebody else, they'll go, oh, okay, cool, right, well, whatever. I don't give a rat's ass because it's not me. I'm not the one getting slapped for 21 commander damage suddenly or whatnot out of nowhere or whatever, or even 7 commander damage out of nowhere or whatnot. So I don't care. So it's always one of those things that I will say that, following the rules is definitely a thing that we all need to do. And sometimes people do jump the gun a little bit. I can jump the gun a little bit too sometimes. But like a lot of the time when there's no one playing blue at the table for the most part, I'll go, well, they can't really do a whole lot in response to what I'm doing anyway for the most part. So I'll just play what I'm playing and just be like, okay, no one's carrying my stuff because no one at the table is playing blue, so I don't really need to worry about that. So I'll just play all my stuff and be like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do here. If there's any abilities like Swiftfoot boots or whatever, and then I'm going to go to combat with something, then it's a little bit different. But again, I don't tend to play those sorts of effects unless it's like mass haste or whatnot a lot of the time. But even then, it's like an activated ability most of the time with me and whatnot. So I'll be like, okay, cool. I've played all these creatures, cool. And then I'm going to use, this creature's ability, or I'm going to do this with this to give everything haste. And then I'm going to attack or whatnot with all my stuff that has haste. And then be like, is everyone cool with that? Or whatnot, and then I'm going to say, all right, cool. If everyone's cool with that, then I'm going to send 7 damage at, Alexia. I'm going to send 7 damage at Nathan. I'm going to send 7 damage at, Rob or whatever. Like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm declaring attacks and I'm declaring, 7 damage at each of my opponents or whatever it is, basically. So this is what I'm doing. Or I'm sending 3 7/7s at, Ryan or whatever, whatever it is, like, okay, cool, this is what I'm doing, So yeah, like, definitely it is one of those things to be like holding on to the rules and whatnot. It is like important, and sometimes again you can like miss things or whatnot, or you can misunderstand things and whatnot, and you might be wanting to clarify certain things, or even you might as the player you might go, if I do this and I do this or whatnot, and this is on the field, does that mean that this happens or whatnot? Or when I do this, can I do this and this or whatnot? Does this work with this? Things like that. So having those rule lawyer moments or those rule question moments and whatnot are very useful as well. It's not always a negative thing, but it's when somebody is like being a rules lawyer and trying to enforce the rules too much into their own advantage, I guess, is the most like prominent thing about this, is where the issue lies, I find. Because when somebody's not rules lawyering, and just will, yeah, that's fine, whatever, or whatnot. Technically speaking, whatever, they could figure something out if they really wanted to be a bit of a dick about things. But instead of just being a dick, they'll be like, oh, okay, well, cool. Let's move on with things, and I'll not be a dick and just be like, okay, cool. Well, I can't do anything about this situation. Unless I just like make things up essentially, or just be, a bit silly about like, missing the fact that somebody had, that creature on the board, last turn, or I forgot, oh yes, that creature actually has haste or whatnot, as its own part of its own abilities and whatnot. So, oops, I forgot it actually had haste or whatnot, or there was a fervor on the field or whatever, or there's a mass haste thing on, Alan's board, but now Steve's, casting his, Blightsteel Colossus, and it's coming at me. Well, shit, I didn't really remember that there was mass haste on everything. Oh dear. Well, things like that. So those things can be like, oh, what's giving this haste again? Like I didn't know it actually had haste or whatnot, or I forgot that there was a thing that was giving haste out or whatnot. I was going to blow it up, or I would have, before you went to combat, blown it up or whatever, so that you didn't, or whatever, or or since you're attacking me, I'll do something, like whatnot. But again, those are little things that can be like, okay, it's all right. Yeah, sure. Hang on just a second. Slow down for a second. It's fine to be like, okay, hang on. Can we just like pause for a second and just like, I want to make sure that this is like, I understand this. Wait a minute, whatnot. Or, oh, that has haste, what? Or whatever, like, how is this attacking? And why are you attacking me? Or whatnot, whatever. Things like this. So it's like, oh, okay, cool. That thing over there is giving it haste. Oh, okay, cool. Right, well, hang on. Let me see what I can do about this. And things like that. So that's fine, but just being like, oh, well, actually, in Rule 71, Article, blah, 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 or whatnot, this sort of thing, to be like trying to quote the rules to people, especially perhaps people who are much more casual, and EDH is much more of a casual format, then it is a bit like dickish to being like, oh, but in the rules of blah, 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 like, yes, technically in the rules, perhaps, whatever, these are the rules, but again, not that we're not trying to play by the rules, we are trying to play by the rules, but, yes, maybe something, was missed or somebody forgot a trigger or whatnot. Again, I think I said this somewhere in Distractions that, yes, technically speaking, that isn't technically what happened, but it did happen, technically speaking, or whatever. We forgot this happened or whatnot, but we wanted to make sure our board states and our, whatnot were representing the correct, things, or our life totals were representing the correct things for what had happened. Oh, I forgot you were attacking me with, a 1/2 death touch or whatever, as well as 60 other creatures or whatever. So I missed that 2/1 death touch and I forgot it hit me or whatever, because I blocked, whatever, a lot of the other stuff with all my 1/1s or whatever, and things like that. So I forgot that this 2/1 death touch did hit me or whatnot. So yeah, so my life total should be 2 less and whatnot, and you should draw a card, or something else happens or whatnot, or you gain life or whatever, blah blah blah. This sort of thing. Well, you gain the life anyway from those effects, no matter if you hit the player or hit a creature. So I guess whatever, that doesn't matter as much, but whatever. Again, like representing the board state correctly and those sorts of things. Those are all things that, yes, we all want to play by the rules, but trying to, I guess, weasel around the rules or weasel the rules into just your corner, essentially, is where everyone has the problem with people who essentially rules lawyer people. So that is, pretty much all I want to discuss here with rules lawyering. Like I sort of said, for the most part, rules lawyering is both a double-edged sword to a degree. It's one of those things where, it is good to have somebody that's around that does know the rules, and you can check with people and be like, hey, does this work with this? Or, how does this work? Or blah, 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 whatnot. But when somebody's like trying to, use their knowledge of the rules to gain advantages over the rest of the players, it turns out to be not very fun for the other players, because they're like, well, we don't know the rules enough to be like challenging this person on the rules. But anytime that, it seems like the rules are out of his favor, he goes out of his way to, or her favor or whatever, their way to, make sure they correct people on the rules to make sure that they're in a better position, or that they can do what they want to do and basically get away with like cheating almost to a degree. But yeah, not legit cheating, but certainly getting around things because they, know the rules or whatnot, or they can argue, oh, but you didn't actually declare this, or blah, 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 whatever this, or because I have this on the stack, or because I have that, blah, 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 you can't attack me, or whatever, and things like that, or you can attack me, or whatever, but basically, if you do, whatever, things and stuff, whatever, you lose, or whatever. But yeah, whatever. Yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I have to say about it, as I sort of was saying. So yeah, you can let me know what you think. I don't want too heated of a debate down there in the comments, but certainly if you guys want to have a friendly debate, and that's another way of saying I want etiquette in the comments. I should have said that as well, with comments etiquette or something. But yeah, certainly if you guys want to discuss it, have it out there in the comments, but do try to keep it civil as much as possible. I will be down there in those comments as well, responding to all the comments that I can. I really do love interacting with you guys, talking about ideation, all these geeky things that we love. So yeah, I'll see you down there in those comments, or I'll see you in the next one. Hey, you've just finished watching one of our videos. A bunch of other videos are popping up on your screen now for you to check out, so why not check them out?